including Oprah Winfrey's masterful, stunningly McBrave speech. I'm just going to keep using those words over and over because that's what the media does. I mean, if I read you the headlines on Oprah, now I'm going to be forced to read you the headlines on Oprah. Okay, I'm just going like right now in real time to Google News. Oprah knew exactly what she was doing on Sunday night, CNN. HuffPo, Oprah and Stedman hint she's open to presidential run. Sources, Oprah Winfrey actively thinking about running for president. Right, Golden Globes 2018, how Oprah saved the night. Oprah 2020, Golden Globes host Seth Meyers jokes it may be in the cards. Oprah Winfrey triumphs at black-draped Golden Globes. I mean, Oprah speaks out to young girls in Cecil B. DeMille Award speech. Just so much heroism speaking in a room full of other rich people who all are forced to agree with her by the news cycle about everything. Because if they don't, then we'll all accuse them of sexual abuse or being complicit in it. I mean, the thing about speaking truth to power is that it would be good to do that when there's actual risk involved. She was the most powerful person in the media for the last 20 years. She did not say a thing about this happening in Hollywood. A thing. And now she's being used as the point person on this. She's the queen of bravery. It's like Roger Goodell saying he's taking the lead on concussions. I keep using that because it's the best example I can think of. It's like the president of Penn State saying he's taking the lead on child sexual abuse. Okay, you can't do that. It's just ridiculous. It's hypocritical and ridiculous. And again, I agree with everything she's saying. I agree. But where was she 6 months ago? Okay, not even that long ago. Okay, this is the part that really drives me up a wall. So she actually compares women who are being victimized in Hollywood to a woman who was raped by six white men in 1944. A black woman raped in Alabama, and the guys were not prosecuted for it. Here she is talking. Right? Lecture us, because it's not like you are the scandal. Why? Yeah, you lecture me, Oprah. Yeah, you lecture me. I wasn't the one who was whining and dining with, Harvey Weinstein 5 seconds ago. The hypocrisy of it just drives me up a wall. Listen, I'm glad that Hollywood is finally owning up to the issue. Do I think there's going to be any material change in Hollywood, by the way? No, I think this is all going to die down in 6 months and things will go back right to what they were before because no one's naming names. Does Oprah have a Rolodex? She knows all these guys. She got anything to say about any of them? A name? One? How about that? And the part that drives me up a wall here is the implication that America in 1944 is the same as America in 2018 with regard to allegations of rape, particularly cross-racial rape. If a group of white men raped a black woman, not only would it be front page story across the nation, the president would sound off, every person in America would be calling for those guys to be strung up. How do I know? Because it was a national scandal when Al Sharpton claimed that Tawana Brawley falsely was raped by a bunch of white men. It was a national scandal when the Duke lacrosse guys were falsely accused to have raped Crystal Mangum, who was a black stripper in Duke. And when that actually happens, we want those guys to go away forever. To pretend that society now and society then are in any way similar, and she said, and that the Me Too movement is what changed that. Guess what? The Me Too movement didn't change that. Everyone was against rape, and everyone is still against rape. We were against rape. We are against rape. We will be against rape for my entire lifetime. And this pretend nonsense that 1944 is the same as now or that it requires the same kind of bravery, no one should compare Reese Taylor to Oprah Winfrey. Okay, nobody should be comparing Rosa Parks to Meryl Streep. If you are, you're out of your mind. You're out of your mind. And to compare America circa Alabama, circa 1944, with America circa 2018, in Hollywood, the repository of all the sexual abuse is just vomitricious. It's just a bag of vomit. Okay, now, there's a lot of talk about Oprah should run for president off the basis of because again, what courage. What unbelievable courage. By the way, I did note this last night, and a bunch of people got mad at me for saying so. But how many times was Iran mentioned last night? Waiting? I didn't see it mentioned once. Did anybody else? I didn't watch the whole program because I'd rather have gouged out my eyes with a spork. But if you actually were watching this thing, was Iran mentioned? I like when she says, we side with women all over the world. That would have been a good time to talk about maybe places around the world where women are being routinely victimized, not just in the United States. And Oprah, by the way, cares about things happening around the world. She founded a school for girls in South Africa, right? She actually cares about stuff happening outside the United States. Wouldn't now have been a good time in that speech to say, not just women here, but women in Iran, and women in Saudi Arabia, and women in Egypt, and women in right? Couldn't she have just listed those off in the middle of it? But no, because Hollywood is deeply invested in Hollywood itself, and they have to show that they're leading the fight against themselves, which of course is not true at all. Okay, so would Oprah Winfrey win a presidential election? Number one, the person hardest hit last night is Joe Biden, because Oprah Winfrey would win the primaries. Oprah Winfrey would obviously win the primaries, right? Joe Biden would get shellacked by Oprah Winfrey, not just because Oprah Winfrey is black, but because Oprah Winfrey is deeply talented, and she spent 30 years building up a stock of goodwill with the American people, and particularly with women. So let's talk more about the general election, because I think that if Oprah ran, she would almost assuredly win the Democratic primary nomination process. Could she beat Donald Trump? So here's what she's got going for her. There are about 5 arguments in favor and 5 arguments against. First, she is the most famous woman in the history of mankind. That's not really an exaggeration. She's the most famous woman in media. This is a time when people have access to information about other people at a rate never before known by man. She's the most famous person ever, right? She's so famous that Donald Trump has spent years praising her. In April 2012, quote, Oprah will end up doing just fine with her network. She knows how to win. May 2014, the greatest discovery of all time is that a person can change his future by merely changing his attitude. Oprah Winfrey, right? There are a bunch of arguments here in favor of Oprah. She's a uniter, not a divider, right? Her whole brand is I bring people together, I unite people, I make people happy, right? She's the warm and fuzzy, whereas Trump's whole brand is firing people and acting tough. So Oprah, there would never be a bigger gender gap than Oprah versus Trump. Right? There would be, the gender gap would be enormous. It would be like 90-10 for women for Oprah and 90-10 for men for Trump. It would be an enormous, enormous gender gap. And it goes on here. I'm going to continue in just a second talking about what exactly her qualifications for office are. Her other qualifications here, third qualification, she has a terrific personal story. Right? So her personal story is really good. Unlike Trump, who grew up super duper wealthy and then became super duper more wealthy, largely through branding power, she was born legitimately dirt poor in Mississippi to a single mom, raised in inner city Milwaukee, molested as a child, pregnant at 14. She apparently miscarried. She got into radio at 19 and made herself worth $3 billion. And so her personal story is terrific. She definitely checks the left's intersectionality boxes. So she gets to say woman, black over and over, and that's what the left wants. So the DNC yesterday tweeted out what would qualify women for office. What would qualify a woman what would qualify someone for office? Said we need to elect more, and then it's had a whole list: Jewish women, Asian women, black women, lesbians, and just transgender women, like a whole list, and said we need more women. So when it comes to the left's view of what qualifies a person for office, Oprah's high on the list, right? Black and woman. She also has crossover appeal in a way that, for example, Hillary Clinton didn't, right? Hillary was a woman, but other women didn't like her. Oprah's a woman that other women really like a lot. She polls well also, by the way. As of March 2017, she had a 49-33 favorable rating. Honestly, I'm shocked that her favorable rating is that low. I would think it would be closer in the 50s. She led Trump, and actually polled her against Trump, and she leads Trump right now 47-40 in the polls, which is not a blowout, by the way. That's more like Hillary Clinton numbers than anything else. So here are the drawbacks. Here's why Oprah would probably not win if she ran. 1, she's wildly inexperienced. Now, that doesn't hold a lot of stock anymore. In the last 2 presidents have had no experience, basically, entering high office. Donald Trump had legitimately no experience entering high office. Oprah's run her own business in the way Trump has. It's going to be hard for him to say you have no experience when he had no experience. She is far left. Her politics will become an issue here. Now, she wants to run as great uniter. I'm the person who everybody agrees is emotionally connected. That doesn't hold once you start running. Once you start running, you become a polarizing political figure pretty quickly, and she is pretty far to the left. She endorsed Obama in the 2008 primaries. It probably helped him win the primaries over Hillary Clinton. She traveled to Denmark in 2009 and openly praised socialism. She's compared Trayvon Martin to Emmett Till, which is, again, just insane. She's a pro-choice advocate. She's made statements in the past like there have been millions of lynchings in the United States, which of course isn't true, about 4,000 lynchings as far as I'm aware, which of course is terrible. But then she's suggested a connection between the time of lynchings and now, right, by comparing Emmett Till to Trayvon Martin. Nobody thinks of Oprah as political, but those politics will jump to the fore pretty quickly as soon as she starts running. She also is kind of kooky. I mean, people say that Trump is a conspiracy theorist. Oprah's kind of a kook. Okay, I know everybody wants to bury that, but aside from her various weight loss theories, she hosted Jenny McCarthy on vaccines numerous times. She pushed, if you recall, the new age silliness of The Secret, which was this idea that through the power of positive thinking, you could heal yourself. And then it became a national scandal when one woman who had cancer said, I'm going to use the power of positive thinking to heal my cancer. It did not work. It was a fail. Right? She went out and defended the fraudster James Frey, as you recall. There was a major scandal for her. She pushed nonsense about the meat industry that had the meat industry actually suing her. So, look, Trump is a conspiracy theorist too in a lot of ways, but the difference is that Trump is already so filled with mud, right? He's covered with mud. He's a mud monster. Throwing more mud on Trump doesn't do him any damage. Oprah is considered this sort of angelic character, and that means that if you throw mud at an angel, the spots are more likely to show on the dress. Right, so there are also scandals that are going to hit her as well. So every person has scandals in their past. Oprah has some pretty bad ones. The worst one was in 2009. her school that she runs in Johannesburg, South Africa, the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy School for Girls, it was hit with a sex scandal, a sexual abuse scandal, actually 2 of them in 2 years. So in 2009, there was a series of students who were sexually abused by other students. The year before, there was a matron who allegedly sexually abused 15 girls. Right? She actually fought back by firing the headmistress and all the matrons and giving the girls her cell phone number. But there will be digging into how much did she know? Was she fully aware of it at the time? Right? The story sort of went away because she took the right measures. But scandals hurt everyone. If they hurt Mitt Romney, they certainly hurt Oprah Winfrey. Finally, Oprah versus Trump. Oprah would end up school-marming Trump a lot. Right? She'd end up doing a lot of what Hillary Clinton did. She'd end up standing there going, tutting him for his baseness and his cruelty. It didn't work well for Hillary. Now, Oprah doing it might be more successful, but I'm not sure school-marming works against Trump in any case. So before everybody gets over the moon about Hillary for president, I think there's some real holes in that particular theory. I also think that the Democrats are probably going to nominate somebody who's more akin to Joe Biden.
We missed this one earlier. Rose McGowan.
She's mad. She's mad. Do you know why she's mad?
Well, she's saying, and not one of those fancy people wearing black to honor our rapes would have lifted a finger. I have no time for Hollywood fakery, but you, I love, Asia Argento.
Okay, so...
Hashtag Rose Army.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Not forgetting that it is all about Rose McGowan, including the other... You know why she's mad? First of all, I didn't see her there. I mean, after all of those retweets, she still cannot get an invitation to the Golden Globes. She's mad because this isn't all about Rose McGowan anymore. I mean, this is a woman who took a deal, stayed quiet, did a calculation, worked out that it was... She's on screen, yeah. I mean, she did a calculation. She worked out that it was more profitable to speak out than to stay quiet because her career was in the doldrums. So she did. Then it comes out she's thinking about a 7-figure settlement to not speak out again. And okay, she doesn't take the deal. Well, maybe because she thought that the payday was bigger in the long run, becoming the front woman of this new rebel army of women who just aren't taking it anymore. Except now it's kind of got away with her, and now Rose isn't the star of the show anymore because now Oprah and Meryl are involved. Who the hell is Rose McGowan?
Right.
Oprah, yeah. And now Oprah owns this subject, and Meryl Streep was there in the front row with that like, I'm trying, but I'm not trying, pulled back gray hair, you know, that sort of like grandma bun that she does when she wants to look like she's not trying too hard. And just sort of like quietly and elegantly clapping and pursing her lips and nodding her head, while Oprah becomes the queen of the female resistance movement after, of course, you know, torpedoing her career for not standing up for women and for giving up on the sisterhood in favor of Barack Obama. Now we've got Rose McGowan poor Rose MGowan left on the sidelines because bigger beasts have taken over the mission and taken over the movement from her.
You know who else is upset they didn't get an invite?
Who is?
Corey Feldman. He's very upset.
He's upset that he didn't get invited. Oh, because, well, you see, this is more defensible. Corey Feldman is more defensible. And, you know, the best, well, I say best, the most heart-rending bit of the story, which I talk about in the book, Despicable, is coming out in May. The best bit of this story is now in retrospect, we understand why Matt Lauer was so aggressive and hostile.
Oh, he's terrible to him.
To Corey. Why? Because in the back of his head, he was thinking, I should discredit all accusers because mine are next. Mine are coming out the woodwork next. This is Matt button under the desk to lock the door Lauer. This is Matt bag of sex toys Lauer. This is Matt Lauer about whom about whom everybody knew. The network. And he's he's in the back of his mind thinking, I'm sure, the smart move here is to discredit accusers and play this down and make Corey Feldman look like he's crazy because I know I'm up on the rack next. And I was watching that interview with him and I was thinking, okay, Corey Feldman is an oddball. He's a little weird. He's a little kooky, but wouldn't you be after what he went through when he was a kid? The other kid that it happened to killed himself. Corey Feldman is a little bit of an oddball, but he's now speaking out. He's giving names. He wanted to do like a fundraiser that didn't work because he was worried about having legal protection and somewhere to live and all the rest of it. Meanwhile, he gets arrested for marijuana possession as a warning as when he starts speaking out. And Matt Lauer's going in on him. Like he's the bad guy. He did something. It was the most accusatory tone. I couldn't believe it. And that's why. Now I realize why. Corey Feldman, I just feel bad. I mean, I'm putting it in the book, so it's not a secret. But we were in touch briefly. We had a phone call, and unfortunately, he decided not to talk to me and I think it was a mistake. I think it was a mistake, and I hope he gets back in touch, and I hope he does, and I hope it makes it into the book, because whatever advice he's taking to hold out for this sympathetic mainstream media interview, for the to hold out for the, I don't know, the Charlie Rose or whatever, it isn't coming. It isn't coming, because the people he wants to go for and the subject he wants to talk about, they are not palatable. People don't want to hear about it. They're not ready for Corey Feldman. They're okay for women talking about bad men, but they do not want to hear about the gay child rape stuff. They don't want to know. And so he is the oddball weirdo throwing out allegations that they must discredit, because what's the alternative? Opening a can of worms that will consume Hollywood, consume the entire entertainment industry. The whole place will be in smoldering ruins if Corey Feldman's allegations are properly investigated, because of what it will surface elsewhere. And they're not ready for that. They don't want to do that. They want to do anything but that. In fact, you can see, if you look carefully, in the left-wing coverage of this, you can see the circumscription begin to happen. They want to limit this to bad men attacking innocent women, female victims, and let's leave the subject there. The movement is not general sexual assault. It is women versus men. It is, it is gender. It's nothing else. There's nothing about race, nothing about homosexuality, nothing about child, whatever. They are trying to contain the fallout from Weinstein, and they can't. It's not going to work. It isn't going to happen. But the reason I think that they're so aggressively against Corey Feldman speaking out, naming names, and letting him have his say in the sort of sympathetic environment that would normally be provided to abuse victims, or to people who were ready to speak up about their abusers or about things that happened to them when they were children, particularly in an industry everyone's fascinated by, movies and TV. They're not giving him the platform for that reason, I think. So that's a story. That's a story of real tragedy. I mean, Rose McGowan, frankly, can go hang. I think she is the worst kind of opportunist. First of all, she took the deal, indicating that she cared more about her career than her dignity, and more about about her pocketbook than her dignity. She stayed quiet while other female victims were presumably being abused and harassed and in some cases raped. Now she's brazenly and shamelessly throwing the word rape around on Twitter because she's upset she's not at she's not at the front table at the Golden Globes, because she's victim. She's like patient zero. She's victim number one in America today. Why isn't she on stage where Oprah is? She probably thinks she should be getting the Cecil B. DeMille Award.
Yeah.
And so she's mad about it. Meanwhile, there's a real tragedy, which is Corey Feldman, which has still not been aired properly. And now they've given him a cursory tour of the studios because the clamor to hear him was so loud. They've given him a cursory tour of the TV studios during which he was subjected to hostile interview after hostile interview. Just goes to show the entertainment industry has not moved much past Barbara Walters when she, 2 decades ago, said to him, "What are you doing? You're damaging a whole industry." Rather than listen to the story of how he was abused, as he says, and raped and worse, as is now tumbling out of his mouth eventually after all these years. Now, he's been forced into doing it in a very unsatisfactory way. In a way, in the story from him may now never be heard properly because he's been scared off talking to people like me who might actually listen to him, and he's been bullied into, managed badly, obviously, and guided into hostile interviews with people who have no incentive to hear his truth. This is the end for him. My hope is, and I'm pretty sure about it, that they are not going to be able to contain the damage. This is not just a little hill fire that damages a few Bel Air homes. This is like full forest fire. This is taking out the state, And this stuff, this is genie out of the bottle, horse bolted out of the stable territory. And they're not going to be able to contain this and turn this into a gendered issue. The reason the left wants to, by the way, of course, is that if you make it left. If you make it women v men, it's left v right, because men and women sort themselves so comfortably, unfortunately, and I don't know why this is the case, which it shouldn't be, into left v right when on these gendered issues. The male position is seen now as a sort of libertarian Trump right position. The female position is seen as a progressive and whatever. I hope, and I don't think they're going to be able. I don't think they're going to be able to do it, but I hope that this fire is going to consume the whole industry, consume the town. I want LA in smoldering ruins because it deserves to be.
Well, Oprah says a new day's on the horizon, so I think we can all go to bed and we're going to be all right.
Now we've had an Oprah speech, everything's all right.
Wait, was that their big fix? Bring in Oprah?
Well,
Was that like their thing? Hold on,
it's
though.
their
That
it's
just
their
clicked
it's their
with me.
come to God moment. So
Yeah,
they
was
brought
that
in the
they're
closest.
like, wait a minute, we are screwed.
The-
What do we
yeah,
need right now?
Oprah. The only
Yeah.
thing, the only thing we can do is get a 10-minute oration from Oprah. Which
And we're all going to forget about it and sleep well.
why? Because she absolved them of their sins. She spoke to a room full of men and women clad in black who were the perpetrators masquerading as victims, and they brought in the closest thing they have to God, which is Oprah and Obama. You know, these are the closest things they have to God, and she blessed them and absolved them. And now they can go forward in the world feeling like they fixed something, feeling like rather than being part of the problem, they're now part of the solution. Like, you know, they can go forward into the world feeling like their sins have been washed clean because they've been touched by Oprah. And you know, look at the reaction from, you know, look at the immediate leap, the Oprah 2020 stuff from journalists as well. This is how she's perceived in culture still, even now. And this is, you know, this Oprah stuff, this is the equivalent. And social justice is this. And by the way, I'm fascinated by this, and we're going to talk about this on so many future shows because it's my new favorite subject. The resurgence of witchcraft.
Oh, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
The research of witchcraft is lefties finding God because they've realized that they need something more than this narrow monochromatic prism through which they view the world. You know, is it racist? Is it sexist? Is it homophobic? There's something more to life than that. And they don't know what it is because for 2 generations, that's all they've been interested in. So they're now looking for something more. And when they reach for something more, they reach for brands and personalities like Oprah. And there's a book by Catherine Lofton, Gospel of an Icon, about Oprah Winfrey. And there was a lot of good literature about Oprah Winfrey in the late 90s and early 2000s that described how her shows are structured like the Eucharist, you know, where there's you know, in the crescendos of emotion, and then so you get a car, you get a car, you get a car. That's the Eucharist, you know. How her shows became a sort of religious ritual for an increasingly godless America, and she's now brought back as the woman who saved us all in the 1990s, and was there for us when nobody else was. And
Obama said no, Michelle said no.
Because the Obamas are absent, because the Obamas have disappeared from stage, except for these rare occasions when Barack Obama will come out and say something disobliging about Trump, because the clamor for him to say something, anything, is so extraordinary that he can't help but offer the occasional Facebook post about what a bad job Trump is doing.
But see, that's how stupid they think we are. That this big fix, you know, they've been exposed and it's just starting. If we bring Oprah, it's all going to be like, you know what I mean?
But
like,
it isn't. But it isn't because you know, people did not tune in their tens of millions to watch, you know, God come down to earth and pronounce them innocent. 11% of us tuned out.
Like it almost
another
sickly
11% of us
feel
left.
better. That's exactly what you're saying. I mean, this is next level.
It's a superficial proxy for mass. It's a superficial proxy for genuine. And here's the point, right? Mass and Eucharist, the process of going to church, real religion. It's about asking for forgiveness and making amends. And then if you go to any preacher, any pastor, any father, any reverend, they will say, you know, the first thing you have to do to be forgiven is to make amends. You can't just say, sorry, I did that.
Course.
You have to go to that person and say, how can I make it right? And get, you know, an Oprah's moment, Oprah's little 10-minute, pandering on the stage was them bypassing the step of making it right and being given forgiveness, despite the fact that they had given no indication whatsoever they were prepared to do anything to make it right.
Let it go.